So today we're going to be going over your axial skeleton with the vertebral column and the rib cage and all of that. So let's get into it. First of all, you'll see on your sheet, you have just the general features of a vertebrae. So each individual bone is a vertebrae. This whole region right here is the body, the thickest part right here. You also have your vertebral arch, which is right here. This is made up of the pedicles and the lamina. So the pedicles are right here, extending right off from the body. And the lamina is going to be this part right here, further out. And together they make up what is called the vertebral arch right here. The vertebral foramen, so you probably know that the foramen is a feature that means a hole. So that's going to be this hole right here. And if you look over on this structure, that's actually the hole is what the spinal cord actually passes through. So you can see it passing through all the vertebral foramen. A couple other things, you have this spinous process sticking off right here in the posterior part. When you actually feel your backbone, you're actually feeling all this spinous process sticking up through your back. Transverse process, so transverse means like across, so this is going to be on the lateral side, so this is going to be your transverse processes. You also have your superior articular process, which is superior articular process, which are these that stick up right here. And then your inferior articular process is going to be these down here. And so when the vertebrae join together, I'll use this as an example, these processes are going to actually be connecting together. You can tell right here. All right, a couple more things. You have your vertebral foramen, which you can see right here when there's two of them together. And here you can see this is where all these spinal nerves are coming off of through the intervertebral foramen. And then your intervertebral disc is also going to be between the vertebrae. You can see these little cartilage pads here between the vertebrae. All right, so getting into the different regions of the vertebrae. So I'm going to use this right here. You have these four regions. You have the cervical, thoracic, and lumbar. So cervical is going to be this upper region, which makes up your neck right here. You have two special bones in the cervical, which are going to be C1 and C2. If you want to come down here, you'll see them right here. So the first one is your atlas, and then this is your axis. If you want to remember the order, they're kind of in alphabetical order, so the atlas comes before the axis. So an interesting thing about the atlas you see right here, there's no body, so there's none of that thicker bone right here. So you can always identify that based on the fact that there's not a body on the atlas. Then you have your axis right here. And a feature here is this little thing that sticks up right here. This is what we call the odontoid process, or the dens. And this kind of sticks up through the atlas, and then this is what kind of allows you to turn your head. This will rotate a little bit like that. Few features on these cervical vertebrae you need that are different. So right here, you can tell it's a cervical vertebrae usually because the body is going to be a lot smaller, and you have these extra foramen right here, which are called the transverse foramina, because of the foramen that goes through the transverse process right here. You can also, a lot of times, you'll see a bifurcated spinous process. You can see that really well right here, where it's just gonna kind of split off like a split tongue or something right here. So bifurcated spinous process. So those are some features only pertaining to the cervical vertebrae. So going on to the thoracic vertebrae, there are 12 of those, so that makes up a lot of your back. So this is going to be your thoracic region right here. A few features you need to know on a thoracic vertebrae. So when looking at it, this is like kind of the most common looking ones. You see the regular body, spinous process, and everything. So when identifying a thoracic vertebrae, some people say it kind of looks like a giraffe face because you can see like the spinous process pointing downwards and all of that. One thing on here, they actually have the costal facets because this is actually where the ribs are going to articulate in the thoracic region. So right here on the side, you have this little facet right here, which is the costal facet. And when you have a rib, it's articulating with that right here. So this is kind of what it's going to look like. All right, and then we have the lumbar vertebrae. There are 5 of those. You can see them right down here. 5 lumbar vertebrae. And they look like this right here. Some people say it kind of looks like a moose, if you can try and see that. A unique feature here, they have a really thick spinous process. So when you compare it to, say, a thoracic, notice the difference right there. They also have these large, thick bodies because there's a lot more pressure in your lower back, so it requires more support down there. Yeah, so this is your lumbar vertebrae, there are 4 of these. Lastly, we have your sacrum, which is this unit right here. It kind of looks like one bone, but it's actually a fusion of 5 vertebrae. So it's made up of 5 vertebrae. Couple features you need to know here is your sacral promontory, which is this upper part right here. This is kind of where it connects with the lumbar vertebrae. You also have your sacral foramina, which are all these holes right here. So this is where your lower nerves are going to be coming out of, and that's what goes to your lower extremities. And lastly, we have your little coccyx, which is kind of what your tailbone is right here. And this is a fusion of 4 vertebrae right here. And that covers the vertebral column.
All right, guys. So today we're going to go quickly over the thoracic cage. So the thoracic cage is this area right here. It consists of your sternum and your rib cage and your vertebrae. And it protects your internal organs, particularly your lungs in here and your heart kind of in the middle. So the first thing we're going to go over is your sternum, which is this whole thing right here. The first part of the sternum we're going to go over is the Manubrium, which is this part right here. It's separated by this little line right here. Your Manubrium's up here. You have your jugular notch right here. It's this one right in the center. And then these ones on the side are called your clavicular notches. And then we have the body, which is this stretch right here, and the xiphoid process right here on the end. And all of this is going to be your costal cartilage. And this is called, this part right here is going to be called the sternal angle, right here. And then we're going to go over the ribs. So these are the ribs right here, in case you didn't know. So 1 through 7 is going to be called your true ribs. So 1, 2, 5, 6, 7. Everything from here up is going to be your true ribs. And then these down here, 8 to 12, are going to be your false ribs. And then your true ribs are also called your vertebrosternal ribs because they attach directly to the sternum via costal cartilage. But your ones 8 through 12 don't directly attach to the sternum. And you have 2 different types of false ribs. You have vertebrachondral ribs and floating ribs. So your vertebrachondral ribs are going to be these ones right here because they're still attached to the sternum with this little cartilage stuff. But these ones in the back right here are going to be your floating ribs because they don't have any costal cartilage connecting them to anything. So then we're going to go on to the ribs directly. So starting off with the rib, you have the head right here. You have the neck right here, so head and neck right there. Then you have the tubercle, which is this bump. Tubercles are just bumps on any sort of bone. So tubercle is this big bump right here. Then you're going to have the body or shaft, which is this whole thing right here. This whole thing is the body or shaft of the rib. Then you have the costal groove, which is right here on the inside of the rib, right there. Now that's super important because you're going to be asked to identify which side this rib came from. Is it a right or a left rib? And it could just be flipped any way, like that. It could be just dropped on the thing, and you're supposed to say, hey, which side is this? So the costal groove is what helps tell you what side it is. So the first thing you do is you look to where the costal groove is. So on this one, the costal groove is right here. The costal groove is right here, and the costal groove always goes down. So this is always going to go down like this. So we now know that this is the right way for the rib to go. And this little tubercle right here is going to go posterior because it's going to interact with your vertebrae. So this is going to be like this, which means this is going to be our right rib. And that is it for the thoracic cage, guys.